Hello. So, all right, this is weird. So how come I can't see my, sorry, for some reason I can't see, I should be able to see the whole picture, but I can't. Why not? All right. Okay, maybe I'll just leave it. So as always, when I start these things, the energy starts to run. It just has. All of a sudden, I'm getting waves of heat. There are always last minute. Hi. There are always last second adjustments. So just let me get settled for a minute. I think I may have to go put the snake down. I'm just going to give me a few minutes to get settled. For some reason, I can't see. Yep, this is going to have to come off. I don't even know why I bother putting anything on my head. Hang on. All right, everybody take a look at Kenji because I'm going to go put him down. 1 second. Sorry. Sometimes he stays. And I need my tissue. Sorry. Okay. Just getting settled. Hang on. So much to talk about today. I haven't done a live stream in a really long time. The energetic grid systems. Whoops. Hi. Whew, I'm sweaty all of a sudden. It was fine a second ago. I have the air conditioning running. There have been we're going through chunky upgrades. So any of you who have watched my live streams before, this is kind of par for the course. There's also, if you've done any kind of private session with me, usually at the very beginning, there's a lot of energy that wants to get processed, wants to move through me quickly. So I'm kind of at the mercy of that. I really don't control it at all. It's just whatever comes through. I'm going to become more topical and grounded linear in a second. I know the bird wants to come on my shoulder. I'm going to let her do that in a minute. But first, I'm just, like right now, I can't see anything. And that's because usually when these sessions start, the first thing that happens is a big purge. It's a little bit like an energetic volcano. If you've ever seen energy coming off pavement, you know, where it gets kind of blurry. That's what happens when sessions first start. I'm a mass transmuter, so often I am called in for service when a lot of energy needs to move on behalf of a particular group of people. So what they do is, I'm like a gigantic culvert. It's like a great big pipe. And I can transmute energy very quickly. And they're using me to connect groups of people right now. I'm going to be talking about that in a minute. My bird's going crazy right now. She was sitting quietly for the longest time. She feels it too. All right. There have been so many developments recently. Developments, inclusions and separations. I'm very dizzy. Hang on a minute. Let me get my list of things I'm going to be talking about. The energetic grid system, I know I need to talk about that. I'm very behind. I know a lot of stuff. All of a sudden I'm getting stalled. Hang on. So what's this stall about? I have had a backlog of, roughly 18 posts, things that I knew needed to be discussed. And for some reason, I have been diverted every time that I've gone to post about it. I'm actually a very diligent worker. I'm not lazy at all. When I go, when I air, it's almost always in the direction of taking premature action or too much action. And it's almost never in the direction of not doing what I'm supposed to do. I feel that there's information that needs to be delivered. One of the reasons that what, boy, there are conflicting groups right now. That's why there are a lot of jockeying for position, for information that wants to come through first, and it's kind of getting jammed. And that's what's causing a lot of the stalls. There is an energetic distribution system on the earth. When we talk about the energetic grids, there is the energetic grids, you know that even the planet in its asleep state has had ley lines, etc., in various degrees of being clogged. Some of them were running and were just corrupt, and many of them were clogged. And there's been a tremendous amount of, what the hell do you call that? Wounding that has just been trapped in the earth. And the reason so many legions of us came down at this time is because we had to release a lot of the trapped energy. Human beings, our bodies are part and parcel of the earth. Camille's here too. And we form one of the microgrids. And sometimes there are many different grids on top, in various layers. Hang on a minute, this is going to get more organized in a second. The earth, as you know, I'm sure has been asleep and in a state of relative dormancy and density for a very long time. And the energy that was supposed to be able to progress and move has been delayed and restrained and also corrupted. So it has been tipping in on itself and getting denser and denser and denser. And one of the challenges that we've had in the Galactic Federation if we left it unattended, the planet was going to explode. And it was going to be a nuclear explosion in nuclear explosions are interdimensional explosions. And because we knew this was going to happen, we went back in time to fix it. So it's been a very, very, very long process of trying to address the lack of development, or trying to accelerate the development in such a way that we could maximize the growth and minimize the destruction. So recently there are developments with the energetic grid. So I was going to talk about one of the ways that the mechanisms by which this happens. It's structured. Because we are still going to get an event. It's so weird. Okay, I think one of the reasons I'm having a difficult time bringing this in is because there are different groups that need to receive it at different rates. There are some groups, so that brings me to the topic exactly. There's staggered awakening for a reason. There's a shock wave. When you first start to awaken, it comes as a shock, and often you feel a lot of fear when, wait, how do I want to say that? Sorry, this is so strange. I'm not, usually it's a lot smoother than this. I'm getting I'll just tell you what's going on. I'm getting a block that almost never happens. I'm getting a block on the left, on the left side. Something's not being received the way it normally does on the left side. There are, it's almost like there are competing levels that need different things. And so there's an interference and it's kind of getting jammed. Can we make this any smoother, please? The energetic grid system, the first thing we had to do is clear as much of the density as possible. Density has been clogging our DNA, our ancestry. If you're listening to me, you're probably one of the people who already knows this. There are some people who are not awakened at all. They've got absolutely no idea. So there are many, many, many waves. And at one point or another, you can be part of one wave and have a suddenly awakening and go into another wave. But overall, there are three main waves of beings on the planet who are going through different levels of awakening. The first wave are the forerunners, the way showers. They are usually the ones who wake up first. And because they wake up first, they're very often the black sheep of the family. They're very often outcast. They feel like strangers. We tend, more and more, we're beginning to recognize one another and group up. Which is very strange. This isn't coming in the way I thought it was going to. There has been a very long-term strategy in place, an orchestration, a divine orchestration to get everyone woken up. Some of it has not gone according to the way we planned it, and there are also different levels of awareness. So at the very top level, we know how everything's going to unfold. It already happened, and so hindsight is absolutely 2020. Clearer, actually. Time travel it happens all the time. So we very often can send people back to make corrections to avoid, to steer things so they go in the best direction possible. There's a staggered tier system in the grids. So I wanted to come on and talk about, there's so much to talk about. The energetic grids on the earth right now. Human bodies, all bodies actually, all bodies, are part and parcel of the earth. The meridians, the energetic meridians of human bodies comprise one of the many microgrids. So we've heard about, I'm sure you've heard about the solar flash, the solar event. There's a way that if we were hit directly with the solar energies, the photon waves, the gamma particles that are already being let loose. Sorry, hang on. If our physical bodies in their dense state were hit with that much light, there was no way in hell we would survive them. So one of the things that's happening is the human body is transitioning, I'm sure you know this already, transitioning from carbon base to silicon base. We're turning into crystalline semi-solid forms. Hang on. I intended to organize this differently. The same thing happens usually when I come on. I have all of this organized presentation, and then as soon as I get into the state, it vanishes, and all of a sudden I can't access it in the order that I want to deliver it in. So I wanted to talk about a little bit about the tier system, because it is directly related to our physical restoration, the regeneration of the physical body, It's directly related to why my guides told me I had to gain 40 pounds at this juncture, because they know I'm going to be losing a lot of weight suddenly. I know why this is happening. And my personal story, I'm told that I am to use my own personal journey and just allow people to witness my process and allow for the transparency, no matter how uncomfortable. Just be willing to do that and go through it first. It's going to make other people feel better and pave the way a little. So I went through the Cosmic Flash event already. It hit me, and I'm going to wind up going through it with a group again. And this time it's going to be, hang on, sheesh. It's going to feel different to you depending on where you are. So if you've heard anything about the diverging timelines, there are two main timelines, and there's also a third, which is out of the, basically out of the dominant two, but it's out of time altogether. We're not really on a timeline. Already in the fifth dimension, there's already everything, everything is already in the existing in the now moment. So it's already happened. It already has yet to occur. Time and space really are relevant. You're gonna get a different effect depending on where you position yourself. So that's all of that is in your control. However, it's not necessarily a matter of simply deciding that you're going to be on the highest timeline, because you have to actually dial your emotional ecosystem. You've got to go through the actual development. There's no bypassing the shitstorm. There's a lot of anguish. There's a lot of processing. Remember the Fuzzy Pumper Barbershop? It was a Play-Doh toy. I used to teach preschool. And there had these little characters with holes in their heads. And you would stuff them full of Play-Doh. It was just all this really heavy, thick gunk. And then you could push down the handle and apply pressure, and it would grow hair. You could grow the hair really, really long. And that's basically what's going on. The more you're squeezed, all of this stuff is being moved out of our pores. It's coming. A lot of that is happening while we're sleeping. Some of the greatest progress is actually done when we're asleep, because we finally relax and dilate, and we need that to happen. When I'm on the council bounce, it no longer exists, but when it did, that was a strategy that we put in place, because we can get a tremendous amount of progress from both the sleepers and the awakened, the more or less awakened ones, in whatever stage of awakening you're in. And it's just like having having kids. If you're a parent and you've ever had to make a really long trip, and you want to get as much accomplished as possible. You just want a nice clean trip out to Ohio. It's going to be 8 hours. So you decide you're going to do most of your driving at night, because that way you don't have to constantly stop for bathroom breaks, or you meet with less resistance. So you park the kids in the back and you just wait until it's nice and quiet, and there's less traffic, so you can just get a lot more mileage. That's happening at night. A lot of the clearing in our cells is happening when we sleep, and it's because we're less busy, we're very relaxed. It's like anything, when it dilates, just a lot comes through. So this isn't what I was going to talk about. Just a minute. So I know that some of you said, can you go on and just talk about the grid system without a whole bunch of other topics? And unfortunately, the answer is no. I too would like it if that happens, but it's not something that I'm opening the floodgates, and whatever comes through, comes through. I would love to work with somebody. If anybody feels like they want to help me organize this material or package it in some sort of a format, you know how on some tarot channels, there are people who will volunteer to do a timestamp. If anybody wants to volunteer to do that with my live streams, I'd be very happy to just deliver the information. But I can't do both of those things because one is very linear and one is very non-linear. So first, I'm trying to bring it back to topic. The way the grids. This entire thing is about getting the new circulation system up and running. The new circulation system is going to affect the economy. It's going to affect the health, the restoration. It is an entire circulation system. So it's going to be the new. It is already the new energetic platform, and every force evolves a form. So in the fifth dimension, all of our governmental structures, our healthcare system, our financial system isn't even going to be the same financial system. Everything is going to evolve, grow, arise from an energetic platform that is based on acts of service and equality from the commencement. So one of the things we're doing now is we're still in the process of getting clear. There are 3 dominant tiers that this is happening. The upper tier is basically out already. We know the way the new system is supposed to look. And there's a reason that you've heard me, if you've heard me talk about various levels, different numbers of DNA strands having nothing to do with a hierarchy or or different degrees of value. That's not what it is. Your 5th grader isn't worth more than your kindergartner. There's just a different level of maturity. Different jobs must be done in different locations. So there's a strategy by which we had to take down, we're still in the process of doing it, or like halfway through, dismantling the old system and building the new system. There's a method by which that happens. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. If you can imagine a globe, oh, please don't eat that. Okay, get down. Just a minute. Come here. Come here. Just eating my tarot cards. This is Tia. So the cosmic event is going to release an enormous quantity, a very sudden, gigantic blast of gamma particles and photons. And when it hits density, all of the density is going to basically get rocked really, really hard. Density and a very, very high vibrational frequency. This thing's going to burn up. It's like, basically, it's just going to burn up. So we need to get as much of the old structure out of the way as possible. And this is happening in, boy, I feel like I'm doing a really, really bad job of explaining this. All of humanity, in order for this event to occur and have the planet survive it, what we're trying to do is get all of humanity to be at least 12 strands of DNA up and fully operational. So there are 2 strands that are physical DNA, and then there are 10 strands that are spiritual DNA that largely haven't been connected to our physical DNA. And this is one of the reasons we lost, as a group, we lost our clairsentient, we lost our telepathy. We were disconnected from one another. We went down and the physical DNA was prioritized because scientists can't see it. They think that the rest of the, all the little parts that stick off, they think that that's junk DNA or it's just extra. Not at all. That's the place where it connects with the spiritual DNA. So you very much need that in place. The goal is to get all of humanity at least up to 12 strands of DNA operational. Beyond that, there are volunteers from all over the galaxy who came in and I'm going to talk a little bit about the levels, the various grids. They just have different jobs. So according to wherever you're placed, you're going to need to have a certain number of strands up and your DNA up and online. It's not better to have a higher number of strands. It just means that some people are arteries, some people are veins, some people are capillaries. And that's because you have a particular job. So all of these jobs are required. We need everybody up and operational. There are relatively few people on the planet with in the specific grid on Earth of the 48 stranders, but we connect to one another for a particular purpose. When the cosmic flash hits, it's going to go to there are off Earth grids too. There's a grid surrounding the planet made up of the blue sphere beings. The Sphere Being Alliance has containment units. There actually are beings themselves. The same way Gaia is a being, there is a network of blue spheres, energetic spheres, that are holding tanks. It's kind of like they're holding tanks for they serve as a buffering system, and they are I almost said our first line of defense, but it's really not defense. It's basically to help us get our shit together, give us extra time, because if too much energy hit density too quickly, if it hit us too soon, we wouldn't survive it. So for a time, there are like storage containers that are in the form of a network of, there's an energetic grid system above the Earth. And there are blue sphere beings that are actual beings, but they're also energetic storage containers. And they're holding a lot of this, the extra energy that would kill us if we experienced it too fast. So the next level down from that, I said I was going to do a diagram of this and then I didn't. Wait just a second. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see? Whoops. Can you see that at all? Kind of. So let's say that these are all the blue spheres in space, and the photon energy is when it's let loose. The 48 stranders that grid is not yet in place. That's one of the things that I was pulled out of. Yes, like a chakra system of Mother Gaia. There's a grid, an incoming grid that is not yet fully connected. I've got 48 strands. I know about 8 other people who also have 48 strands, but right now I'm going to pass on information that I didn't receive directly. This is somebody I got from, I got this information from another 48 strander. So, but it doesn't, I have no reason not to believe it. I heard that in the United States, there are approximately 800 48 stranders, and we're scattered all over the US. And then there's approximately a little over 3,000 was the number I heard. I can't confirm it, but I have no reason to disbelieve it. It seems correct to me, all over the rest of the Earth. After the blue sphere beings buffer it, we are the next level down from that. So the reason we have 48 strands is because it's kind of like we're arteries, and we're going to get the blast first, and we've connected. We are the last ones to get fully connected. So the way I explained it to someone the other day is that it's a little bit like the grid system. It's a little bit like if you can imagine wagon wheels, like old-fashioned wagon wheels, where you have the hub in the center and a whole bunch of spokes radiating out from that. If you had that all over the earth, and then you removed the hubs, there are various groups all over the earth, and then there's approximately one hub, or there's one hub or a pair. Because actually everything is, the grid system is actually designed to work in tandem. Every single connection, nobody is holding it alone. There's always a pair. So there's a deep grid and then there's a high grid. We're getting to the point. So this is one of the ways that the twin, God, I'm explaining this so badly. The twin flame grid is going to happen when we come into alignment, but a number of things need to happen simultaneously. So it hasn't happened yet, but it can't happen until we've got enough of the density cleared. So there's a certain wave that has done most of their work, and we've been largely, there's kind of a water wheel effect where those of us who got clear, we went back down to help other people lift. We've been transmuting. Those of us who are mass transmuters, we've been transmuting for many, many other people. Well, it's gotten to the point where the lower levels must transmute. They have to get kind of off their ass and transmute their own stuff. That's where most of your growth occurs, is when you're really, life gets harder. So you have to do a lot more of your work. One of the things that we're undoing is the savior model. We're doing two things, and it seems like they're opposing, but they're not really. We're having, so the savior model is where one person comes in and does most of the work and gets crucified or gets burned at the stake or otherwise screwed, but they don't get any reward for their effort. So it's a genuine act of service. We in the movement from the Piscean age, which requires a physical sacrifice. We're moving from the Piscean age, which requires martyrdom, or it could be martyrdom, or it could be it's some sort of a physical sacrifice. The age of Aquarius doesn't require a physical sacrifice, but the age of Pisces does. So we're at this transition point where we have to do this en masse. It requires, it's the next level of our development where we have to pick up a share of the workload. We have to pick up a share of the sacrifice, all of us. So those of us who were already doing the bulk of the labor must step down and allow other people to do it. Actually, even force them to do it. They have to do their own work. Everyone does. We have the reversal code, or the code we're looking for, it's basically 50-50, but 5-5 is even better, because if you can reach a 5-5, the thing will turn around. If you meet at 5 and you each cross into each other's terrain, that's really what we're looking for. We need a tiny little bit of an overlap. At any rate, where was I going with this? So when the hubs of the wheels that I was talking about on Earth, if the Earth is covered with wheels, the hubs are like when the hubs drop in, they're going to be the last things to drop in to the grid. When that happens, though, it's going to suddenly connect group with group with group, and everything is going to light up very, very quickly. So the grids are all the hubs. The grid on top is made of the hub people. So it's kind of like the 48 stranders. We're going to receive the bulk of the energetic wave first, and we ourselves are going to buffer it. It's going to hit us first, and then in short order, we're going to drop into the grid that's just beneath that, which is the Oriflame Indigos and the Twin Flame grid. So if you are following me, what we're doing is staggering the energy and bringing it down so that it's not so colossal. you don't want to put too much voltage into a 12-strand person. Even if they're, especially it's a 12-strand person who hasn't been awake for very long, would scare the crap out of them. What that would have, it would have an effect that, if you can stay with me, would be traumatic, but it's also exactly what they need to actually wake them up. So it's something that you don't necessarily welcome, but you do if you need to really have a jolt. Like there are some people who aren't going to, kind of in a last ditch effort to wake them up and have them do their own work. Something is going to have to hit them, and it's going to be a great big blast. It's going to be a big wake up call. We're actually trying to work it in such a way that the job gets done with the least amount of trauma, but most effectively, because it really does have to, there's certain amount of progress that must get done. And anyone who's gone through the wake up process knows that trauma creates growth real fast. So if it's between that and annihilation, just choose the growth. Choose the growth. And we'll hold your hand and get you out of here. If you're listening to this, then you're probably one of the ones who's already well on your way. But in the meantime, so I was gonna, okay, hang on, let me back up a teeny bit. So you have the 48 stranders who have a gigantic job, and that's why we needed 48 strands. Usually our job is colossal. So we've been transmuting going into the darkest places, going into the energy that is the densest. We're usually the ones who have had the most extreme experiences. Or Sarah Adams told me she's another 48 strander, and she told me the other day, she said, well, for people like us, it's just another trip to the bathroom. But that's not necessarily true. And it's kind of like, only if every trip to the bathroom was just a nightmare. Yeah, but little by little, the 48 strand people, number one, we're usually quite isolated from one another. There aren't that many of us. If you talk about just the U.S., there aren't very many of us, say 800 in the country. Yes, I know, let's see, one. And a lot of people I know that are 48 stranders are also in other countries. So I think I know three other ones in the U.S. But the boundaries of the countries don't matter at all. It will, when we connect fully with one another, which is happening now. I know 3, but when I connected with Sharon Pickle Hartman, she knew another 1, and then Sarah Adams knows, several more. So little by little, we're connecting with one another. And since we are already connected, so the point being, groups are starting to link up with other groups. So there's going to come a point where the entire 48 strand grid is connected with one another. And the reason this is so important is because if you can imagine that it's extremely important for us to be 100% clear. So the reason that, I know I'm explaining this very badly, the reason so many of us are broke and sick, we've been broken sick, most of us, it's extremely hard. This amount of light coming into a carbon-based body is extremely hard on the physical body. The carbon-based body tends to break down. So we want it to do that because we're transmuting it into a different substance. Hasn't entirely happened yet, but we're all in this process. We need the higher level grids. We need our bodies to be clear, and we need in that strata. Let me be really clear that it's in that strata. the problem that I'm having a hard time flowing this information, sorry, because there's opposite information that needs to go to the lower level. So right now, some people, it's kind of like on the Wheel of Fortune, there are some people who are headed down, who are already clear, or in whatever reason, they're headed down. They're clear already, and they're headed down to make contact with the earth. Then there's another group that is on its way up. Both up and down directionally are part of the process of ascension, because it's a wheel. So you have the density that needs to go up, but you have the light beings, the light that needs to come in. So if you're already awakened, like like if you're a 48th strander and you've been awake for decades, you've been doing all of this work, your job is likely to be to come down. And that's why we say so many of us are having a difficult time getting into bodies. We've been unplugged from the third dimensional paradigm. The economic system, it can't work for us anymore, and it shouldn't. We also really don't want it to. That would be very counterproductive if we were to go into the existing, if we were to go back into the existing system and defer to it. There's a contradiction there too. Wait a minute. Basically, there's a reason for everything. It's a very complex, multi-tiered strategy. So I'm having a hard time delivering this information because there are various different levels on this call, and it's what's true for some people is not true for another. So let me see if I can go back to just talking about the grid system. So you have the blue avians out in space. The next level down are the 48 stranders that are mostly soul practitioners. A lot of them are also twins, but a lot of them are not yet in union because their twin is on the level beneath them. Also a 48 strander, but deeply, this is toward a purpose, deeply embedded in the physical reality. This has to happen. And it's because when the twins finally come together with the 48 strand, or 48 or 24 strand, however they're set up, it's going to be equal. When that finally locks into place, you're going to have an energetic jolt that is going to bust the crap out of any remaining density. And you're going to have, so the 48 stranders on top that I'm calling the hubs of the wheels, as we connect to one another, we form a network of, it's like clear tubes, massive, massive clear tubes. And this is itself the stabilization system. We form a stabilization system, because when it's a stabilization system, how do I say this? It's a little bit like an energetic net. Let me say it that way. It's like if you had a net, it's a network, but it's a net of light beams that were all connected, that were surrounding the earth and also off into space. When the light goes into the center of the earth, when it finally hits the deepest and darkest density, they're going to experience it. They're going to experience the incoming light in a way that's very different from the way we will experience it. It's going to feel to us, because we're already clear of density, and it's going to feel like this massive energetic charge. It's going to make us feel fantastic. Like one big gigantic group orgasm, where our energy is going to go through the roof. We're going to get really happy, really lifted. We're going to feel an enormous wave of love, but the energy is going to get extremely strong, and even we will feel the heat. So the level beneath it is going to feel, they're going to get rocked. So you think about, it's kind of like if they're hit by lightning and they're not prepared, they're not awakened. A lot of them are, so I'm not saying this is like, I want you to go into fear about it. Just the opposite. I'm saying there's a stabilization network that's a lot like a superstructure, or like it's a little bit like a climbing apparatus that is set up around the earth. And remember when I said that it would be an explosion, except we've put an apparatus in place so that it doesn't become a nuclear explosion. We had to stagger it so that since we knew what the effect of the energy, we knew what was likely to happen if we did nothing. We knew what would happen if we did nothing. We have put or are in the process of constructing an energetic safety mechanism. It's also connected to the matrix, and the matrix, what we call the matrix, is either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on who you are and where you are. It's a very, very good thing if you're somebody who's off in space, and if Earth were to explode, you and your planet would get destroyed. So there needed to be a network that kind of catches the explosion. So one of the things that's going to happen, if you think of the exterior grid as a network of very strong tubes and very, very, very strong beings who love the light, they like that energy. I'm not talking about the negative reptilians, and all of them are going to be gone by the time this happens. Those of us who have been walking in trust for a long time, for example, those of us who have, there's a reason that those of us who did this preliminary work, we were part of the first wave, and usually we're either a 48-strander or a 24-strander, or at the very least, we're a 12-strander who's been awake for a really long time, and all of our 12 strands are on. The energy is going to feel very good to us, and we're going to meet it with no fear at all. And because we're connected, also because we're kind of shining our light in the darkness, there's a reason that, as much as we hate it, there's a reason that we're isolated from one another. And so many of us are in separation, and like we're living alone, and to one, not all of us. Jen Reynolds seems to be pretty peachy every day. But there's like a lot of us have been alone for a really long time, or one way or another, particularly the 48-stranders, we've been placed in situations of extreme darkness with kind of more extreme challenges. And this is one, it's basically because we could handle it. It was to test our level of ability in preparation for this incoming event. We're really going to need to, it's kind of like a circuitry check, kind of like last man standing. Well, okay, you're safe to put here. A lot of us have been sent out to assignments. I was talking to Sarah Adams the other day, and she was one of the people who went to Beirut for that Beirut explosion. I'll go back to the grids in a second, a little bit about the explosions. So one of the things we're doing in preparation, so the light and the dark side are the exact same thing. It's two sides of the exact same thing, the same beast. There's really no difference. There's just, when you're located in the third dimension, they appear to be different things, but they're the exact same thing. There was density in a lot of density in Beirut. There's a lot of child trafficking. There were a lot of tunnels there. We knew that we were going to have to explode that. If I can just talk about like battle strategy, what is seen as battle strategy in the third dimension, in the lower strata where war is happening, things are still very polarized, and a lot of energy still needs to get moved around and transmuted. So it's a lot of strife and battle still has to go on down there for a time being. So in order to move the energy, both the light and the dark side are agreeing that certain events have to take place. The explosion in Beirut being one of them. Knowing in advance. So when I was on the Council of Balance, these things are decided. It's in no way at all is it a competition. It's actually a collaborative event, it's a collaborative endeavor, the Council of Balance, which we dismantled it because we didn't need it anymore. Its time was over. But when I was on it, there were 6 members of the light side and 6 members of the dark side, but we're all the same thing. And there was no competition whatsoever. That would defeat the entire purpose of the Council of Balance. What you're trying to do is grow the entire planet in a balanced way. And for that, you need dark and light to both survive up to a point where there's going to be a separation. So the whole thing there was about orchestration, knowing what the dark side needed, knowing what the light side needed, making sure everybody can survive. One of the tenets in the Council of Balance is that you do not have the right to tell the other side that it may not exist or that it can't get fed. Because if you did that, it's a bastardization of universal law. And if I established, I'm going to conquer that side and I'm going to make sure that side doesn't get what it needs to live. If I did that, I would be saying, in my world, that's okay. And then as soon as I say that, anybody could do it to me. Because in the higher level, and this is going to be the new system of government, I'm going to wind up doing some kind of a live stream about that. But in the new government in 5D, every person is sovereign. And whatever the idea of karma is changed to whatever you say goes for you. So if you want freedom, you have to first offer it to every other person. You can't insist on a control system unless that's okay with you. If you allow that in your world, then any person can, or any being, for example, can look at you, see your energetic signature, see whatever it is that you allow. We can look right at it and say, oh, this person, this person says that, a power leverage, they approve of leveraging of power. And, for example, if you decide that it's okay for a big, strong being to view a smaller being like a population of ants as a nuisance and simply eradicate them, if you say, well, in my world, that's okay. We do that all the time. One of the reasons this is a quote unquote, a prison planet is for our own stupid protection, because so many humans would wipe out a smaller population without even thinking about it, because it's done very commonly. You see another population, you're bigger and stronger, so you decide that it's okay to leverage your power and annihilate the entire colony. And you say, well, what's wrong with that? We do, it was in my way or whatever. But if you watch how fast the planet is going to change when the system of government is changing. And this is one of the things that's changing too, that whatever you say is okay in your world is okay in your world. And therefore you just gave permission for that thing to happen to you. And there's no longer going to be a time delay. I really got off topic, but there's no longer going to be the time delay that there was previously. So it's not even karma anymore, where your karma is going to loop back around. It's more like just you set the rules for what you say can happen to you. So before anybody kills you, they're going to say, is this okay with you? And you get to say yes or no. And so you better be comfortable saying no. But then if you said, it's okay, it's okay in my book if I take some poisonous spray and spray down a colony of ants, because after all, they were on my counter and I wanted that space and it's mine. So I just decided I was going to go poison them all. You're saying that multi-species takeover and leveraging of power is fine by you, and you're basically saying that anybody is welcome to do the same thing to you, because what goes around comes around. So you can't complain that there was a big system that came in and put fluoride in your water, or put whatever, chemtrails, because how many times did human beings as a group say, yeah, no problem with that. I feel fine doing that to all dandelions. I'm going to eradicate the dandelions. I'm going to eradicate the ants. I'm going to eradicate the bees. I'm just going to spray poison upon this entire population. And when you allow that, you're saying cumulatively, we're talking about collective consciousness. We tipped the collective consciousness into an agreement with that. We didn't stop it. Not enough of us said, that is not copacetic, I don't agree. So we're coming back down from that. One of the things I know I'm going to be talking about in the future is how the hell did we get ourselves into the mess? We're under, the matrix is something that we built. It was built by the collective because we allowed certain things to be perpetuated. Now there's also, I won't even get into it now, but there's actually a long-term strategy where we had to install the matrix so that we could remove it. But for a time being, the matrix has served a very definitive purpose, and we needed it. And I'm very happy to talk about that different time. At any rate, so I also am going to talk about the circulation system and how collective consciousness, there's a change that's going to happen that is happening in collective consciousness. How do I want to say that? Basically, it's going to affect the entire, what we think of as the financial system it's no longer going to be a financial system. But the change in consciousness has to happen at the same time. The first thing that has to happen is we have to blast the crap out of the existing system, and the light wave has to come in first, because people keep putting back, keep going back to the way things were. So I feel like I've done a terrible job on this live stream so far. Hang on a minute. So there's a stepping down effect. I keep trying to get to this point, and I think I've gone around it like 10 times already. You've got the great central sun and the sun the way it is now. Sorry, I'm getting a wave of dizziness. I'm losing linearity. They're clearing something. Just a second. My language starts to go. Did somebody just come on the call? All of a sudden, there's like another wave of clearing that's happening. We're getting a lot of energetic work done. If you're listening to this, that means your energy is being brought into this continuum. Oh, so I will go back and finish what I started to say about the 48-strand grid. My energy field, even though I'm semi-embodied, like I have a body and I'm moving it around, but I'm not all in it. Very, very little of me energetically is, relatively speaking, is in my body. I have two extra energetic fields. I've got the normal 12-strand one that's fully operational, and then I've got a 24. The 24-strand portion of that, and other people who have the 24-strand, they have very, very, very powerful energy. Like if you look at Like Rion, I always notice his energy. Rion and Romeo Baron too is another one. Every time I see them, like they've got to be 48 strands. I'm sorry, 24 strands or higher, because their energy is really, really strong. Where was I going with this? So people who have in that strata, they tend to oversee. Oh God, that's the wrong word. We are set up on the globe so that we're given regions or cities or areas that are kind of ours energetically. When you have a very, very strong energetic field, it becomes a dominant tuning fork. And all of the smaller energetic fields of the people around you are going to entrain to yours. So that's kind of one of your jobs if you're a 24 strander, is that you go around and a lot of the people who are in like vans at the moment, how that's become really popular. Whether you're if you're 24 strands or a 12 strander who's just awake, if you're one of the one of the van people, if you've gotten a tiny home and you're a traveling light worker, you're taking your energetic signature and you're spreading it around. You're changing the energy of your surroundings as you travel. Where was I going with this? So the orphine indigos, orphine indigos are a certain category of indigos that have 24 strands. So it's particularly strong, and they tend to be assigned grid points and locations that they're responsible for changing the energy for. I have one friend, and her location, she was assigned all of Las Vegas. And so she got the information to make her car almost like a traveling altar. And she was given instructions that all she had to do was circle Las Vegas over and over and over, just drive around Las Vegas. That's her job, energetically. And she's been doing that, but she's clearing energy as she goes, or she's transmitting, emitting an energetic transmission that the surrounding are picking up on. So most of us are assigned a grid point, and as we upgrade, we may move to a new grid point. So a lot of that is happening now too. When twin flames come together, the real ones, they're very often 24 stranders. In order to be a real, I know this sounds really hierarchical, I don't mean it to, but in order to be a real twin flame, it would kind of necessitate that you would have to be 24 strands or higher, because the sheer quantity of the energy, the voltage, is going to be staggering when the thing's fully operational. The twin flame grid, they operate as a pair, and they're usually in a given grid point, or they're one of the ones that migrate. And then some people are extremely strong, and they're put alone on a grid point. Like Belinda Spence, I'm thinking of you. She was sent to Niagara Falls because she is a powerhouse. I looked at her energy, I was like, my God. Yeah. So recently, as you move up, as you get clearer and clearer, and you clear most of the gunk that's clogging us has looked like a lot like tar. Actually, it behaves like tar. It's just been a lot of density, old ancestral patterns, whatever. And as we go through these experiences and we transmute all of that, we become clear. So the 48 strand grid it's two things. It's both the one that's highest, and it's also the one that has it has a counterpart grid that is simultaneously the deepest. So it's the highest and the deepest in the earth. So that when the high grid lands, it's going to when the circulation system is fully connected, fully operational, it's going to pick up all of the energy, it's going to let loose of the blockages. Right now, the Sphere Being Alliance, all of those those spheres that have been containment storage devices, there's going to come a point where the Great Central Sun and the our solar system sun we're going to have the solar event, and at the same time the spheres are going to release their stored energy. So our planet, and then it's going to be picked up by the 48 strand grid. It's going to go down and hit the Orifime Indigos and the real twin flame grid. Also, I should also say that the twin flame grid, there's one of the twins, there's one that is high and clear, and then there's one that is very deeply embedded in 3D. That's for a reason. Since the genuine twins are connected on a loop and they're entangled anyway, what happens to the one is going to happen to the other. And this is how we're going to blast the densest of the density. The ones that haven't been awakened no matter what the hell you did. This is kind of going to be their last hurrah, their last chance. Anything that really refuses to be transmuted is going to have to leave the planet. There's no two ways about it. You either transmute this, you are either willing to work and become a part of the continuum. It's called a continuum because it lives. If you still want to, if you're really, really committed to the old system, then you can't continue and be a part of the new system. You're going to stay behind, and you're probably going to go off into a holographic version of 3D Earth, wherever you can continue the development at the level that you still need it. Or you're going to be recycled. I'm actually not entirely sure. My priorities have been elsewhere. I was told recently that I had to disconnect completely from, I already was disconnected totally from the 3D paradigm, but I have been continuing to transmute for lower levels. And just recently I was told that under no circumstances they pulled me out completely and they detached me. And I was told that because the people in the top grid, there are still a number of people who are behind schedule. It's not that there's really a schedule. There is and there isn't. Some of the people who have been doing the hardest work are just exhausted, just completely exhausted. And right now I was told that I was reassigned and told that I have to focus solely of, like, all the people on the lower levels must step up to the plate at this time. I can't continue to lift them and carry them on my back and et cetera, et cetera. I have to start I'm allowed to continue to transmute for other people, but it has to be people on this level or higher, since this entire level must be 100% pristine, clean. We can't be carrying any residual density by the time this, it all has to be clear by the time this first light wave hits, because we're going to get the biggest blast of it. And then from us, it goes down to the Orifime and goes in the twins. And then from the twins, it goes to like the echo twins, people who think they're genuine twins, but they're in the twin flame pattern. For example, one of the reasons that twin flame, it's all about getting people, finding a way to reach the population in a way that they can access you or that you can access them. For example, we're trying to go get new ideas, new energies into an existing paradigm, and the toughest thing to get past is by far and away the belief barrier. People have very closed minds, and they've been conditioned so strongly to believe certain things or to think it has to be a certain way. One of the reasons that the twin flame, we needed this to get picked up by as many people as possible. So on one hand, it's easy to say, well, we don't want this pattern anymore, but it's actually really has been incredibly helpful. Strategic. It's been, there was a strategic reason for the whole Disney princess idea of someday my prince will come. There's actually there's an energetic reason for why that manifested the way it did. Time only moves in one direction. Do I really want to talk about this now? Time only moves in one direction. In the third dimension, it's perceived as going only forward and never back, but that's not even true at all. In the fourth dimension, it runs both ways, and you can be affected. Energy healers, you probably already know this, that you can very easily be affected by something that has not even happened yet. You feel the effects long before it has even happened. The event for this earth, the shock waves of that were felt and produced effects going back thousands of years. We're feeling on certain timelines, we're feeling the effects of the event that has yet to occur on this planet. The idea of a princess in the tower waiting for the masculine. That's exactly what we actually needed. That we needed that for a while. The feminine has to be at the top. The masculine has got to be at the level beneath it. And then we have to wait for a certain while. There's just a time delay. I'm sorry, I'm explaining this badly. And I can't see the screen. They're clearing a lot out of my head right now. Basically, every force evolves a form. And the forces are conspiring in our favor, even when it seems like they don't. And then sometimes there are reactions on Earth that we don't anticipate. Or we can plan and plan and plan, and then you get a reaction where someone goes backwards instead of forwards, and then you have to kind of loop back around sometimes and try and fix it. I'm sorry, I know this is really long and rambling. Hang on a second. So where was I? Oh, the twin flame grid. We needed as many people to pick that up as possible, to say yes to it, because the saying yes portion comes before the manifestation. That's huge. That's a real major point. You have to say yes to something before you see the materialization of it. So that's in direct opposition to the way the third dimension will tell you that the way they've been conditioned, that you're not going to believe something until you see it. Boy, is that opposite. Actually, you have to say yes to something in order for it to land in your lap. In order for it to draw something in, you have to say yes to it and have faith that it's actually going to show up and agree to it. And you also have to have a really full-throttled yes. Say yes to it, and then it's going to land. If it's half-hearted, it's not going to come in. We are looking, when we're looking for someplace to land a given energy or a given manifestation, whether it's an invention, whether it's an idea to give to a creative person, if we want to, those of us who kind of work typically in the fourth dimension, we are usually less embodied. Hello. We're usually less embodied, and if we're not in bodies at all, we look for an opening, because energy moves like water and it travels on space. We're going to look for an opening. So we're going to look for an open mind, and we're also going to look for someone who's really eager to receive it, or asking. That's why we say, if you want something, ask and it is given. but you have to be open to it. You have to ask first. We're not going to give something to someone who does not actually want it. So you have to ask, and you have to have a mind that's open to receiving something. So you must say yes. It has to be a very full throttle yes on the top end, meaning your mind has to be really open to some things in order to get a new idea, in order to get an invention, in order to get a story to turn into a teleplay, in order to get new creative ideas. Where was I going with this? Oh, we had to access there was a strategic way that we needed love energy to flow down into density. So we're using the divine feminine, and we're using the conditioned beliefs to access, so that we can direct the energy to get the way where we want it to go. We want the divine feminine. I don't have a more politically correct way to say this. It sounds incredibly condescending. We need the common layer, the layer of people who are not particularly awakened. They're not particularly spiritual. They have no particular interest in spirituality. We need them to pick up divine love in a much bigger level. They are open, typically, to, or I should say it this way, the place where their openness to receiving love is the strongest. So we're trying to get as much love energy into density as possible. So we're going to look for an opening, someplace where we're going to look for the path of least resistance. Doesn't mean there's no resistance, but there's the least resistance in a population. That's what we're going to look for. Where's the softening? So usually it's motherhood or romance. In the common population, I know it sounds terrible, but in the common population, if they're still largely asleep and still under those conditioned programs, they're, as a group, they're going to have a soft spot for romantic love of a traditional variety and motherhood. So we're going to say yes to that any way we can feed it to them. So you go. So we install the twin flame program, and then we get everybody looking for their twin. Now, is that a stupid thing to do? Yeah. From the top level, we're looking at that saying it's a primitive strategy. It's something that we can, but we're not actually being unkind. It's something that we can bait them with to get them to move in what's actually the right direction. Do we want them to stay in that traditional idea? No. We definitely need them to move through it, but it's kind of like you give the junior high population what the junior high population needs. Do they need to move through it? Absolutely, but they're not there yet. You have to meet your population where they are. They're fawning over the idea that everyone has a twin. Well, that's not necessarily true at all, especially in the third dimension. A twin flame, an actual twin flame, is not a romance. It can be, absolutely can be, and usually it is also, but primarily it's a spiritual construct. It's a spiritual, what do you even call that? It's a dynamic duo with a joint purpose, and they land together to do something for the good of humanity. There's always with a genuine twin flame couple, it takes a level of spiritual maturity and a willingness to work. It's a colossal undertaking. And if it's just terrain that you have to move through is all. You go to some of these, Facebook groups or YouTube channels that focus on twin flame readings, and even if they have the spiritual mission portion is usually of secondary importance, but it's just terrain that you need to move through. So I'm not actually trying to be judgmental. It's there for a reason. It's there for the people who need it. And it's there to help them uncover and move into the next stage of the development. So I'm not actually judging it, but the vast majority of people who think that they're genuine twins aren't genuine twins. And they're going to, when they're ready to drop that, or when they're ready to step into service, but almost everybody has an ascension partner, or someone who's twin flame-esque, who will catalyze their spiritual development in a way that's twin flame. The genuine twin flames, they have a very strong catalyzing presence on lower frequencies. And that's really one of their main purposes, is to get that particular energetic signature of divine union, that it has a very broad base of love. The love is more like a flood. It almost always really disrupts the third dimensional, let me see, it jumpstarts the Kundalini to rise. So, and especially at the beginning stages, it's going to catalyze and jumpstart the lowest chakra and the second chakra, and it's going to start rising. So usually there's a very strong, very often sexual attraction very early on, and then they go off into separation. And that happens even when it's not a genuine twin. Hello, can you mind? Hi, can you go sit someplace else? You're getting kind of gnarly. Just 1 second, I'm going to put her back. You can sit up there for a little bit. All right. Sorry, this got really, I didn't intend to talk about any of that. Just a second. So after the twin flame, after the genuine twin flame grid and the Oriflame indigo, the Oriflame indigo grid, the grid underneath that, or I should say the grid that's, I guess, beneath that is, or smaller, could be likened to the capillaries, or this, like smaller veins. And that would be the 12 strand pairs. And then 12, 12, everybody on the planet can at least get 12 strands up and running. Whether they will or not is another issue. Let's see. And then, the animals and the plants and all of life is awakening at the same time. So we're going to be one gigantic ball of light. Everyone's going to be up and running. All right. What else was I going to say? I was going to talk to, oh, I'm sorry. I know this is really unorganized. So back to the explosion in Beirut. So Sarah Adams, who is a 48 strander, a lot of the really ugly events that are sudden and very disruptive on the planet right now, such as the explosion in Beirut, because I was going to write a post on that and I didn't. What we sometimes do with Oriflame indigos or 48 stranders, less so 48 stranders now, because we're working very hard to get all of the 48 stranders out of the lower service. It's on a case-by-case basis, but we're calling into service a lot of the Oriflame indigos and the 24 stranders. If you're up to it, everyone has got to up level their level of service work. So in order for that to happen, you have to stop doing, this is really important, you have to stop doing the job that you did previously. We're having, even those of us who are in, who've been in service for a really long time, are having a difficult time, because it's not always stepping down. Sometimes it's stepping up, sometimes it's stepping down. But you have to relinquish your previous position. So it's basically just a gigantic wheel. You have to stop doing the job that you were doing before, and you have to assist the next level that's coming in to do your job, whatever the expansion is, wherever your personal expansion is. I've been solitary for a really, really, really long time. And I was also coming off the Joan of Arc, all of that Joan of Arc energy, which had me doing largely in the Savior template, where I was doing a tremendous amount of work and not getting paid anything. Me and my entire group of people who are in the similar, there's a specific group that's doing that job. That entire group it's kind of like, it's like a pizza. There's one whole triangle of us who have had that job. And we have to it's tricky because we have to do two things. We have to maximize our service. We have to work up to our capacity, but we also have to give up the role. So we're no longer going to be doing everybody else's job. Everyone has to work up to their highest level. Coming down from moving out of the Savior model of operation on Earth means that some people who were already functioning on the Savior level have to step down, and everybody has to meet in center. And those of us who were who basically were just kind of having other people pull us in the wagon, Jesus saved me or whatever, we have to step our level of service up and say, okay, I'm going to pick up my portion of the cross, and I am now the body of God, and I am picking up the job. So you're basically going to be on par with Jesus. It's part of bringing in the collective Christ consciousness, is that you now have to pick up your portion of the job. And if everyone's going to be equal in stepping into the new template, it's level from the commencement. So that's really important. I feel like I dropped a topic. What was it? So we have to leave the level of service, whatever job we were doing earlier. It's not enough to just add on. You actually have to step out of your previous role. Yeah. You have to, every person has to up level. So there's that. So I've been alone for a really long time, and I have been told specifically that I have to go into partnership. I can no longer work alone. My default, so one thing you want to do is examine your own patterns and say, what do you do automatically? What is your automatic response? And then whatever your automatic response is, you have to know that that's where you, what you have to kind of counteract. You want to stay on center, and you know that your wheels are aligned in such a way that are misaligned, where they only ever go off veers sharply. If you take your hands off the wheel, you're always going to go off the right side of the road. Make sure you counteract that. You really have to kind of keep an eye on what you normally do, and just know that about yourself. And know that that's, my default mechanism is to always go off and do everything on my own, because I don't trust people. And in my history, not enough people showed up, and I was just abandoned a lot. So I got very comfortable just being independent and saying, okay, I'll just go off and do it alone. And then I tend to overwork and overgive, overserve. But we've used that. Coming back from, so personal history briefly. Yes? You're going to have to wait. It's almost supper time, sorry. He's letting me know he's hungry. One moment, please. You can last a little longer. Plus he had a snack. Hang on. I have so many different topics. Sorry about that. I can already tell, I feel like there's another live stream that's going to come either tomorrow or the next day, because I know I'm not going to be able to finish it today. So one of the things we've been doing, that will soon be done by other people as more people get clear of their ancestral programming and they're able to handle more light in their bodies, and they're able to as they're able to accommodate something new, they're going to be reassigned and asked to go into service. The new template, template of society is all service oriented. So I don't think I'm going to get in talk about that. I'm going to be talking about the new government, which is nothing at all like the old government. I know one of the things I'm going to be doing, talking a lot about, is the way the new system is structured and the way it works. It's gonna be relief for so many people, and it's absolutely nothing like the government that we've got now. So maybe that'll be this live stream. I can't entirely tell. At any rate, back to the explosion in Beirut for a second. Two things are happening simultaneously. The densest and the darkest, well, really all of it, there are teams in place, both physical teams like in government, like secret agencies and things like that, that are going into areas where there are human trafficking and all sorts of things. Like, you send teams of Navy SEALs or however they do it. I'm not really involved in that. I just kind of know I always know what's happening energetically, because my area of expertise is interdimensional harmonics and mass migrations. So I work with very large scale energy streams and groups. So I can update you on what's happening at the galactic level a lot easier than I can when we talk about things that are going, like secret government agencies and things like that. Please go lie down. The explosion in Beirut, we knew that was going to happen because we needed to collapse a lot of where the explosions are happening. There's a series of underground tunnels. Not all of them are malevolent. Not everything is nefarious. But there was an opening to a tunnel in Beirut where there was a lot of human trafficking going on there. We knew that there was going to be an explosion because we were going to explode that. We were going to have to explode that location. We also knew that there was going to be a lot of trauma that it would cause, a lot of fear, and it was going to be an eruption. So basically, we look for areas that we know are going to be problem areas in the circulation system for the light. So we can't get through where things are where the energy is extremely compressed, where there has been a lot of fear, where the energy is very packed into and condensed. We need to release that ahead of the solar flash. We have to get the circulation system running enough so that it won't cause us more problems later. So in the case of Beirut, we know that ahead of, one of the things we have to do is explode that area. And we know that we can safely predict that a lot of, it's going to generate, that explosion in and of itself is going to generate a certain amount of damage, a certain amount of energetic shock, and we don't want that to get out of hand. So we're trying to, we send light workers like Orifeme Indigos or certain 48 stranders. Sarah Adams, as I said, was sent there for the Beirut explosion. And she said she was sent with approximately 700 others, and they gathered there at the same time as the explosion. And she said when it was so dark that she knew that she was there with 700 other people, but she couldn't even see anybody else. Anybody else on the team, they all disappeared. That's actually very common. How many times have we heard that from various light workers who, like, I'm all alone in the world, I'm connected to nobody. That's because you're capable of sustaining or living through that experience. we have had to, people who are capable of functioning alone are put in, are kind of, we've been isolated from one another because we kind of need to, we're setting up a grid. We're basically just setting up a grid. We need certain people who can be intersections. We're going to set, you don't put all intersections in one location. You set them up because we're trying to establish a network. So if you're one of these people who feels very isolated from other light workers, I lost my whole family, my whole life has changed, I don't have anything, where's my new thing? It is coming. I guarantee you it's coming. Connect with as many people as you can already. Try as hard as you can not to hold on to any old attachments that, and I know that's very, very difficult. It's so easy to look back and want to hold on to what used to make things seem stable. There is going to be a reconnection for a lot of us that, the circulation system is going to all come back online. And so what did I start to say? I'm sorry. I think I never really finished explaining what the top grid does. The mega grid, the 48 strand grid that is right beneath the sphere being alliance grid. The blue spheres that are outside of Earth, the level beneath that, our job is to be gigantic tubes. And we're going to be the ones that stabilize vibrationally, because we're going to connect to the lower grids or the finer grids. And when they get really scared, what scares them is, like Sarah Adams said, it's just another trip to the bathroom for us. We've been living on very little money. We've been in isolation. We've been through on a regular basis so much hardship that what the lower grids, I know this sounds really hierarchical, but when a lot of fear, and we've been awake for a long time too, usually, when the fear comes up, when the shock, when certain things are released to the lower level, when certain things come out in the news, when the light waves finally hit the densest level, there's going to be likely a wave of fear. So certain people, for example, the lower level, have never seen multidimensional anything before. We, on the other hand, we've been seeing interdimensionally for, usually many of us, our whole lives, we've been seeing interdimensionally. We're used to seeing auras. We already know that fairies and dragons are real. We know that things are semi-solid. We already know that UFOs exist. We're no longer scared of any of it. We have our education in place. We're stable and peaceful, and our energetic field is larger than theirs. Granted, there are fewer of us, and at least in the first wave, and there are more and more of us every day. But the point is there's a staggered approach, and there's a strategic reason that it was designed and orchestrated for us to wake up in tears. We absolutely have to do that. We are the stabilizing mechanism, the stabilizing grid that provides a safety net, the way a calm mother will hold a toddler who's in the middle of a freak out, because we know that it's something brand new to them. It's something brand new to the little one who might get really, really freaked out. Maybe. Actually, probably a toddler. It's probably a poor example. But you know what I mean. They're likely to get hit with something that they didn't expect and go into one degree of panic or another. And we're going to be energetically connected to them, and we're going to be able to absorb a lot of their fear we can take it on without it affecting us at all. I can feel the fact that, my partner is terrified, but I'm still not. in order for it to really affect the top tier, it would have to overwhelm us by percentages. It would have to go 51% dark, which at this point is very unlikely to happen. But we've had to do this. We've had to do this little by little. What else was I going to say? I was going to talk about, oh, where is it? I was going to talk about, oh gosh. All of the, okay, so the grid system, when it is fully operational, let's talk for just a little bit about, because it's going to take a little while. How do I want to structure this material? Sorry, I know this is really, really long. You can rewind it. It'll be on YouTube, the Ascension Arc, and then you can rewind it and go back and get any information you may have missed. All of the structures. So there's a tiered approach to the dismantling of the institutions of the world. There's a tiered approach to the dismantling, and then there's also a structured approach to rebuilding it. And this is all happening simultaneously. If I can talk about, do I want to talk about this now? About the elections. I don't know if I really want to talk about it or not. Depending on who you are, I'm not going to try to, number one, I'm not going to try to influence your voting at all. There are some timelines that Trump wins, and there are some timelines that Harris-Biden wins, Biden-Harris. You need to choose. So the one that you're going to get is the one that you are most aligned with. What I would like to, the message that I would like to deliver is that you need, in order to take your power back, you cannot give it to you can't give it to the electoral process. You can't give it to a governmental system, which is a system that exists outside of you. In order to actually take your power back and have your vote counted, you have to actually take all of your power back and recognize that, okay, do I want to even say this? Your vote itself is already, you already voted energetically. So if you feel like casting a physical ballot, it's only a reflection of your energetic vote. Some people are in alignment. So basically, you're going to need to really look to see what you yourself are most in alignment. Where is your authentic truth really? If you, do I want to talk about this now or not? I feel like it's a different topic. I will say about Biden that if you're on a timeline where he wins, there's a certain amount of progress that must get done. It must grow. The system it must change. It's not a matter. So even if everybody voted to keep it, it still is going to collapse. It's non-negotiable. It's like, even if everybody voted to, if a lot of people voted to maintain the educational system the way it was, You can't have that. You can't stay in the Piscean age. There's going to be a massive sacrifice of something in the lower structure. So whatever you would call a pentacle in tarot, be it time, you're going to sacrifice the lower timeline is the point. The entire lower system is ending. You can't keep it anymore. So even if everybody voted to maintain it, you simply can't have it. Going in to the Aquarian age requires a system of equality. You can't get a system of equality if you use a previous system that was built only by white men, because it was established on an energetic principle. The reason everything, like, the reason the entire system is tipped toward favoring white men, and no matter how much we battle for equal rights, we're never going to get it, because the energetic system, the energetic platform that founded it was all white men. So we have to start from scratch. So one of the things that, which is good, that's what we want. So we're not casting white men into the dirt. We expect them to be at the table. We expect them to use their voices and add to the conversation and also promote equality. The fresh energetic platform that's going to move us into the Aquarian age is one where every person is expected to contribute fully. And we need everybody at the table to begin with. So if the only people who are moving ahead into the fifth dimension on Earth are the ones who have passed that test and who are engaged in the continuum, they're able to do it. They've passed all of these spiritual challenges. So there are a lot of groups on Earth who are still very heavily invested in the old paradigm and the idea that you can fix it. If we work really hard, we can still fix the old one. You know, if we get women into the government, then it'll fix itself. It won't fix itself. It was created by white men. It's genetically, it's kind of like its energetic structure is only that of white men. So you can, even no matter how much you put women in those positions, it's still not going to be morphed enough. We need to start with a completely different system. So there is a incoming strategy, which I'm going to talk about. There's an incoming, there's an incoming network, a new pattern. There's a new template for the way the new world government is going to be structured. I'm not really going to talk about that now, but I will talk about the inevitability that the old system, we're going to see the demise of that. So there are certain contracts. Oh God, do I want to say this right now? I want to make sure I don't get myself into trouble. Let me be really clear. I'm not going to assassinate anybody, and I'm not wishing anybody any harm. Okay, I just want to be really, really clear before I continue talking. When I say contract, I'm not talking about an assassination attempt. No, I'm talking about soul contracts. There are soul contracts that each person makes before they incarnate. I don't know if I'm going to talk about, maybe I'll talk about Trump's in this one. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Biden's contract. Not too much, though. I really would just want to stay out of it. There are certain ways that the current government, we're trying to traumatize as few people as possible, while affecting as much growth and change and progress, getting as much progress as possible. With the understanding that the vast majority of people, I'm talking about the U.S. right now, the vast majority of people in the United States, we've been conditioned to think, we've built up a certain comfort zone. and conditioned to believe that the structures of society had to run a certain way. So as we dismantle all of these institutions, one of the things we're monitoring is the overall fear level so that we don't overload the existing circuits. There was a circuitry problem. We've had this attempt before. We've had this planet, whatever. We've had planets explode before because of circuitry problems that we want to avoid that happening. There was a timeline in which this planet exploded, and it was largely due to an energetic circuitry problem. So a great deal of time and effort has gone into going back in time and making certain adjustments historically, the Joan of Arc lifetime being one of them, so that we could avert the energy and avoid this problem, so we could get the maximum amount of growth, the maximum amount of acceleration, and then go back as quickly as possible. We absolutely had to have that. We had to put the structure in place and then remove it in such a way that we took the savior model out of it also, because we can't continue to have it. And I do actually know all of the ins and outs of how this happened. And the point being, at the juncture that we're at now, in order for this planet to survive, it absolutely must have a woman in power. We had to take the cabal down completely. The cabal has whatever. You have to get them removed or displaced. There's a strategy so that it can be done safely, so that we have a safety net. You can't just yank the rug out. You know what I mean? The entire society was built in a certain way, and absolutely we want to take them down, but we have to remove it in such a way that it doesn't cause a subsequent domino effect of catastrophe. You have to recognize that energy, it matters as much as matter does. And all energy is going to create a form. So unless you want another Holocaust, or unless you want, and usually this is why, because when people go into fear, they don't go into, yes, they're going to go into a growth experience, but the first thing they do is they constrict. They usually go in and they return to what feels safe. So we have to take down dismantle the previous construct in such a way that it doesn't cause an effect that causes more subsequent problems than it solves. We have to stagger the growth so that people are willing to step forward on something. And then we have to make sure that we're just leading them along. You know, you walk with them. So there's enormous orchestration to the events and a turning. So one of the things I would like you to do is make sure you don't judge your brother for doing something different than you, because in order for the entire wheel of events to turn, there are different groups that must be doing different things. So for example, if you're awake, if you're one of the people that woke up early and there was a time that we needed a lot of other people to wake up, but if you see somebody and they really are not awake yet, chances are it's because they're just better off. Just leave them. Just leave them. Get out of judgment. You do you for a little while. And if they're meant to wake up, they will soon enough. One of the things that has to happen and will happen, we need feminine leadership in order for the appropriate adjustments to happen. We need women in leadership altogether. There's an energetic reason for this. It wasn't happening fast enough under the current regime. And not all women are the people that we want, um, that we want, that we can have, because some of them are aligned with the cabal. So it can't just be a popular woman that everyone, it has to be someone we can look at at a candidate's or a person's energetic, not just their potential, but their energetic qualities, what they are capable of receiving, what they're capable of carrying. That's a better way to put it. What they are, how much of a load they are capable, what kind of a job they are in a position to do. So there are many different timelines. There are two/3 dominant timelines. In one of the timelines, Trump wins. I'll talk about that one a different time. Another timeline, Biden wins, but his soul has a contract to win the presidency, and then he either, I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do it. He's either going to die or he will be assassinated. But in short order, he relinquishes his seat because it is actually the path of least resistance to getting a woman president. The energy takes the path of least resistance. And right now, what we need is the path of least resistance and the most progress. So the path of least resistance right now to getting a woman president, in order to affect other subsequent changes, the candidate of choice, I was really hoping it was going to be Marianne Williamson, but no, the candidate of choice is Harris for other reasons, and which is good energetically. I can understand why. We're going to be able to make more progress in certain demographics. So what's going to happen? Biden wins, Biden dies, she's president, and then in short order, she's supposed to get a walk-in, and it's going to be a walk-in of her higher self. It's nothing like a possession. This is a different thing, but she's going to get rapidly upgraded so that the appropriate energy, it has nothing to do with a physical person, really. It really doesn't. It has to do with a progressive energy. We need a particular energy to be at the helm of the United States, which is not even really a helm, but in that position. And there is additional circuitry work that is going to come through her. So once she's established as president, first vice president, then she steps up as president, she's going to receive a higher self walk-in. And also a lot of other energies are going to come in and out, because it's always a group. We're stepping up into group leadership. There's a transitional phase that's going to happen. So she's really not one person. She's going to get a team of light beings that is going to be rotating. Her skill level is going to expand. A lot of her positions are going to change. I'm not even following politics. And personally, it won't serve the overall transition if I vote. The job that I'm doing requires that I stay completely out of the existing system. It actually serves progress if I stay out of the system. But it doesn't mean I'm inactive or not making a contribution. I'm involved in world government on the level above it. That's kind of like the where there's a huge round table. There's a huge round table, and we're one of the things we're doing is there's a large group of largely women, and also nature. Nature has a voice. We're listening to nature, and all beings are considered, and we're kind of weaving the energetic template. We have the template. We're weaving the energetic, how do I say this? I don't have a word for it. Basically, we haven't landed it yet, but there's an energetic structure that is in the process of being developed that will be the new model of government. It hasn't landed yet. Because we still haven't even dismantled the old one. So right now we have no place to put it. And we're not going to land it on top. We're not going to put the new model on top of the old model. Well, actually, kind of in a way, I suppose we are. We're building it on top, but these two things are not touching yet. There's just a transition. There's a modulated transition. I'm sorry, I didn't do a very good job of explaining that. What was the other thing? Energetic grid system. So when the blast comes in, because I know I was going to talk about the system of the economic system and the healthcare system. It's all one and the same system. We're going to wind up getting a light energetic, an energetic blast that energizes and creates an entire net. It's going to be it's picture the human body circulation system. It's just like that, except nothing's a dead end. Everything loops back in with everything else. There's a system of propulsion that's going to be, it's going to come from gifts, offerings of service and gifts of love. So for a time, we're still going to have standard finances. The first thing that happens is the solar flash that's going to establish correctly, help us get the circulation system up and running. Once the circulation system gets up and running, one of the first things that's going to come online are our natural physical restoration. So I know I've talked a lot about med beds. Med beds are coming, but the med beds come after the solar flash. The reason for that is that right now there's a tremendous amount of mental resistance. I really can't talk enough about the mental barrier being the worst barrier there is. The belief system barrier is the worst one. It's the hardest to get past. People have very rigid ideas about, and if you think about collective consciousness, there are some of us who are very open to it, but there are so many people who are in disbelief that they're actively sending out a transmission of doubt. The same way that prayer works, and prayer can be a positive promoter, will deliver positive energy toward anything that's targeted and focused on. So can doubt. So if somebody is constantly looking over at a given thing and sending doubt in its direction, sending negative thoughts or worse, ill will, or if they wish someone harm, or if they're jealous, if they're resentment, if there's whatever you're sending in the direction of a person or a project or a circumstance. If you're somebody who hears of things and wants to prove them untrue, just be aware of your own energy. Because a lot of things could come in. And one example is, I'll use the example of my father. My father had cancer, and cancer is very easily curable, and you can always call in a miracle. My father had cancer in a large lump on the left side of his neck, which indicates when cancer forms in this location, it has to do with points of view. And the left side of the body, the back part of the body has to do with the past, and the left side of the body also has to do with the past. It also has to do with the feminine. And he had a very rigid belief system. So there was an accumulation of density. Every force evolves a form. So if you look at why something manifested the way it did, why did he grow a large lump of all the places that he was going to get cancer? Why was it cancer? Why was it cancer in the form of a lump? And why did that lump land where it did. He had very rigid viewpoints, particularly related to women, particularly related to traditional viewpoints, and he wasn't going to change his mind. Basically, it manifested on his neck because he was kind of incapable of looking at things a different way. So no one was going to change his viewpoint. So his lump kept coming back. And there was one point that I went out to visit him. He lived in California, and I'm an kick-ass energy healer, and I've been doing this for decades. And I went out there armed because I loved my father. And it was almost like when he got cancer, I wasn't happy that he had cancer, but I also wasn't scared of it. And I was just like, oh, okay. So now we just get to fix this. It was almost like I wanted a chance to show him the way that I know these things work. And in that moment, for me anyway, it was almost like he was a cooperative component, because one of the requirements for a miracle to even occur is a certain level of disbelief. The only thing a miracle is, it's kind of defined by the level of disbelief. If you think something is impossible, then that makes you right for a miracle. That means that when it's happened, you're going to be even more surprised. You're going to say, my God, the thing's miraculous. So I showed up, and I was all excited not excited really, but really gung-ho. I was really gung-ho to treat this because I've got an arsenal of tools for dealing with cancer. And I know perfectly, I have no doubt in my mind at all that we can just wipe it out. My father so the cancer wasn't the issue. Cancer was not the issue. The issue with my father, and he died of cancer. The issue was that my father wanted none of it. I asked him, and he said he really didn't believe in any of my newfangled energy healing. He thought that he wanted hard science. He believed that if anything was going to cure his cancer, it was going to be poison. It was going to be the whatever traditional Western treatment, and he would rather go. But in a weird way, his whole being was really much more in alignment with the traditional medicine. He really didn't believe that anything I did was going to make a damn bit of difference. And so the condition wasn't uncurable, but as a person, he was so intransigent that that I was useless. And in fact, at one point, he said, fine, you can do anything you want as long as I don't have to be a part of it. I don't want any part of it. You can do all of your energy, whatever. And I just don't want to be a part of it. And so as he says that, all of the possibilities just shut the door to it. And he actually believed himself to be he was convinced he was a very open-minded person, but nothing could be further from the truth. He was one of the uncurable people. So in the transition, as we move the entire planet up the energetic scale, and go up in ascension, a lot of people are really not going to come. And they might believe that they're very open-minded. They might even believe that the planet is ascending. They might even believe themselves to be on the cutting edge. For example, a lot of scientists specifically believe themselves to be on the leading edge of discovery, but actually they're the last ones to know anything. Scientists are very focused on physical, usually, data, specificity. By the time scientists discover something, it landed a long time ago. It's already been the case they're like the last people to know anything. At any rate, where was I going with this? So the light event is going to come first in order for the maximum amount of open-mindedness. It's going to leave us, the light event is going to leave us with a population, the only ones remaining are going to be a population that have been cleared We're much more open-minded. It's going to be a population who are all of us in the only group left after the cosmic after the solar flash. We're all going to be service toward others. All of the other people are going to be removed. So you're not going to have to. That alone is going to change everything. It's not that. I'm going to talk about that a different day. I mean, we're going to have a balanced system because you also have to take care of yourself. But there's just things after the solar flash are going to be completely different. And I went through the solar flash in 2013. So I know I went through it ahead of time so that I could come back and talk people through it who are going to go through it now. I know that I've been told over and over again that if I tell people what I went through, it's going to be what happened to me and also my physical body. That's going to be what the entire earth is going to go through. So I know that we're going to get a massive light event. The light event is the connection of a circuit. So if you think about Kundalini Awakening, the light event that happened to me in 2013 was full Kundalini Awakening. Kundalini Rising is different from Kundalini Awakening. Kundalini Rising is where the Kundalini goes, it goes vertebra by vertebra up your spine, and you've got 33 vertebra, and at the every vertebra there's a new initiation, there's a new level of awakening, a new degree of mastery, and a new level of knowledge that you get. So I went through mine relatively fast, very fast actually. And in 2013, I've got the full connected circuit. So when the energy comes all the way up your back, the base of your skull is one end of the circuit. And when the energy comes all the way up your spine, when these two things touch, it forms a completed loop. And it's like all of a sudden becoming a power tool. Full awakening. So most people don't get fully awakened in their life. I was told that, so full Kundalini Awakening is like going from being a hand tool, like something like a saw, or living your entire life as something like a hammer or a saw or some kind of tool. And suddenly, one day, you get plugged into a wall. You never even knew you had a cord, maybe. All of a sudden, one day, somebody plugs you into the wall, and suddenly you're a power tool, and you're a totally different thing because you're connected to all of the other energy. So right now on Earth, we have people all over, forming various grids capable of carrying in their bodies, which are, if you think about the meridians of the body, that's a microgrid. And each person, each physical body is capable, according to whether they're a 12-strand DNA person, that's going to be the minimum requirement for being on planet Earth after this light event. Right now, our physical bodies only take two strands of DNA, but then we have 10 strands of DNA that are inactive until they're active. After this light event, everybody's going to have 12 strands of DNA, and that is going to bring everyone's telepathy online. All of the clear senses are going to be online. So maybe not all of them, but because everyone has different capacities. Some people are more, they lean more toward, maybe they're more auditory, so they have clairaudience, or maybe they're more clairvoyant, so they have, because they're much more visual. But one way or another, you're going to get an expansion of your telepathy or your extrasensory perception, your connectivity. You're going to get expanded. Your other senses are going to come online. Whatever you came in with, they're no longer going to be dormant. Put it that way. And that goes for not only human beings, but the rocks are going to wake up, the crystals are going to wake up, the animals are all going to be woken up. All of the group minds, or most animals come in with a group mind or a group soul. So the groups are going to be talking to other groups. All of the groups are going to be connected. It's going to be a massive, massive increase in expansion and awareness. The entire planet is suddenly going to talk to one another. The water is going to be like is already, for those of us who can do it, the water is like a newspaper. The water carries all of the information, and it's this massive, it's all about connectivity. So drink a lot of it. So light codes are going to be delivered in water, and then it's going to just get flooded all over the planet. So where was I going with this? Obviously, we're not there yet. It's staggered. For the people who are not prepared for this, a lot of people are not prepared for this. So there's a way that it has to happen. There's a reason it can't happen prematurely. We're just trying to get everybody on board, everybody on the bus. What was I going to say about that? The light event. When I was hit with it, when my circuitry was suddenly fully awakened, two things happened. I shot out of my body. Part of me went deep into the earth, into like the center of the earth. And then I shot all the way out into space and went past Andromeda. And I could look down, and I could see transparent layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of all of these dimensions. And I was looking down, and I was aware that I could still see my body, but I could look down through time. And I could see, so I was looking, so basically I am a portal. I'm a 48 strand portal. My job right now on this planet, and as Joan of Arc, and as previous figures, I suddenly came back into all of my remembering about like, oh, this is why you're here. Remember, you're here to do this job. It was really like waking up, and I just had to kind of get my bearings for a while. But the point that I'm trying to make, though, is that my mind had to go get its bearings, and I had to go way, way, way far out in order to see certain patterns throughout history, meaning the things that I was here to adjust. I just came in with an extraordinary job. I just came in with a whopping extraordinary job. Joan of Arc left me with just staggering group karma. Group karma is a thing. It's a thing. And I just kind of, you think you're an individual, and then one day you're like, oh my God, I'm responsible for all of these groups, and we've got to rebalance all this shit. And I forgot. I prayed so much. I just was really hoping it was not me. And they're like, no, you've got to go do this thing. This is why you have to come. You have to do the second half of the job that you started. You've got to finish your job. So it's been a massive, massive job. It's really dark in here. Sorry, there are 4 light bulbs out in this house. I'm down to 1 light here. I can't reach the ceiling. I need a step ladder. So it's just gotten really, it's gotten very, a lot of contrast, sorry. So when my mind kind of shot out and went into space, my body, the physical carbon body that I was semi in, had another reaction. I got extremely hot, having nothing to do with being burned as Joan of Arc. Although that experience did come back, and it is connected to what's going to happen here. But basically, it's just what happens when very, very, very strong, high vibrational energy hits density. It just creates a tremendous amount of friction, and whatever is solid burns up. So that happened. I shot out of my body, and I got extraordinarily hot. I was sweating. I was crying. I just was dripping. My hair was dripping. I was sweaty all over my body. I got semi-hysterical. My nose was running. The energy, because it's the sudden increase in amount of energy, just the sheer quantity of voltage passing through you. I was clearing so much, and the floodgates had never been totally open before. Even though I was born awake and I've been doing spiritual work my entire life, I've been clearing this shit my entire life. In that moment, it was as wide as it's ever been. So, but I shouldn't say that. It was a massive opening at that time. It has since expanded. At any rate, that's a version of what's going to happen to the entire planet. There is going to be a solar flash event, and it's going to suddenly wake up a lot of people. Half of the people are going to know what it is and be really happy. They're like, yay, it's a solar flash and we love it. It feels fantastic to us. This is what we've been waiting for it. It's finally here. The solar flash, and it's going to feel fantastic. And it's going to feel a lot less fantastic the more you go down into density. So everyone is going to have to be there for the level directly under you. The level that you're expected to help, so that we don't get the top levels doing everything. Every person, the person that lands in your lap, the person that's closest to you, is the person that you're here to help. The one that comes to you, the one that you feel moved to help, doesn't mean you have to do the entire job. It's also so the workload gets staggered. And basically, it's your job. If you're moving out of a particular job, remember I said everyone has to relinquish the job they had previously. It's kind of your job to train the person to take your place. So this is how we work it. So whoever is coming in, it's your job to assist them as much as possible, be it one person or multiple people. But you're going to wind up helping the people who come to you for help. That's really important. And assist any way that you can, while still maintaining balance and not going overboard if you're one of those people. Let's see. All right. I think I'm going to stop this for now and pick it up a different day. Oh, not before I say this, though. The med beds are coming after the solar flash. Our bodies will begin to naturally regenerate. The cells are going to pick up. We're going to get a lot of light codes that bring certain things back online, like our appendix. Don't be surprised if new children are born and start to have fully, rather than having appendix, which is an atrophied organ. The appendix used to be organs that were responsible for regeneration. It's one of those things that were sacrificed as our lifespans got shorter and shorter and shorter, and we went into isolation, and we needed them to be shorter. We're going to wind up getting those back. We're going to wind up getting light codes that replenish things that we need, and we're going to get gradually over time, we're going to get less and less dependent on physical substance and more dependent on vibrational nourishment as opposed to physical nourishment. So, for example, any attention that we previously paid to like the nutritional properties of food, gradually over time, the nutritional properties of food prioritizes the requirements of the physical body, but any given substance also has vibrational properties. So, for example, medical science says that I'm very overweight right now. My guides told me that I needed to gain 40 pounds a while ago, because in preparation for the light event, I actually need to, I really need help bringing myself down, getting back down into my body. And my challenge was being grounded. So they have me eating, and this would not be my preference, but I have to eat natural peanut butter, organic peanut butter, like 5-6 times a day. Normally I would never do that. And anybody who was looking at my eating habits would say, well, this peanut butter habit has got to go. For my physical body, first of all, my guides told me to prioritize the energy body at this time. They said, your physical body is going to be fine. After the light event, there are going to be very, very, very rapid changes in the physical world. Things are going to speed up rapidly. After I got hit with the, I was calling it my lightning strike, but it really wasn't a lightning strike. It was really a Kundalini Awakening. And shortly after that, I lost like 30, 40 pounds without trying. I didn't do anything. I wasn't upset. I wasn't trying to lose weight. And I wasn't particularly miserable. It just naturally kind of just dropped off my body at the rate of about 5 pounds a week. Happened very, very quickly. And apparently the same thing is going to happen. So I have been very, I'll admit it. I've been really upset about this weight gain, and I know why they're telling me to do it. Like, I totally get it. I am on board. I understand I understand why I'm gaining it. I understand what it's doing. I'm not particularly happy about it. And that's the work. They said it will, as soon as I'm at peace with it, I'm addressing certain imbalances within the collective energy toward certain resistances where women are afraid to gain weight because they think they won't be loved or they think they won't be sexually attracted. There's an automatic resistance to women gaining weight. There's an automatic flinch response. And if you asked the majority of women, how would you like to be fatter? There's like an automatic no. That is one of the things in the belief system that we've got to get through. It's absolutely essential, because we have to change the energetic field to one that welcomes, that where there's an equality. There has to be an equality where it is just as okay to receive as it is to give. You have to change the energetic platform first. So I know that I have a soul contract to do this particular thing. And I also know, they keep reassuring me, because I know I'm worried about it. They keep saying, it's not going to be the issue that you think it is. Just gain the weight. You need to gain the weight and maintain this weight until you no longer have a problem mentally. When you can just have no problem, when you no longer have an issue or a judgment, when you stop, basically they're saying to me, when you stop bitching about how fat you are and just have it be fine, then you're going to be ready for the light event, and it's all going to fall off, and you're going to be able to morph your body the way you want. But you can't do it while you're still in resistance. So will you please go through the resistance and adjust it on behalf of the group? And because I'm a mass transmuter and I have this job, I said, okay. So also it requires me to eat peanut butter as opposed to any other substance. So why would that be? On a vibrational level, and it's also one of the things that came up in the mental health industry, the field of psychiatry. A lot of people are going to think that they're having a psychotic break when they're actually having sudden spiritual awakenings. So we're going to really need to address that. When I was hospitalized for 10 days, and I know that I had to have that experience. I had to go into the institution to see what was wrong with it before I could come back in order to fix it. It's kind of like looking at a map. Same reason. There are certain people who are used as operatives, the same way Sarah Adams went to Beirut because for a big explosion, there was something that had to be done there that required somebody who could carry that kind of energy and be there along with 700 other people. Broder Bilal right now is suspected of murder. He's being held apparently. There are certain institutions where we send people who have particularly strong Christ energy in certain bloodlines. It's like we try to infiltrate. So in the legal system that's one place it's very, very difficult to change. So if you send Broder, who didn't kill anybody, just get him arrested. If we could get him arrested and sent in there, spend some time radiating his energetic signature, it's actually going to break the system. The system is not going to have an effect on him. It's not going to break his spirit. It's not going to break his purity of heart. It's going to suck to have that experience if you're Broder, for sure. I'm sure he's not having a great time. But he's there doing a job. And then as soon as his job is done, he'll leave. But he's there in service. Everything he does is in service. And so I went into a psychiatric ward for 10 days. And one of the things that I noticed was that I was out of body and I couldn't get back in, and they wouldn't let me have the things I needed to get back in. I needed a grounding agent. I needed something that would energetically assist me on, but they don't know that that's even a thing to do. So one of the things they said there, because they've got so many rules and regulations that make sense if you're somebody who's looking at just the physical world. They said, no, you're not allowed to have, I had asked for peanut butter at one point, and because I knew what my problem was. I knew that I was not grounded and I just wanted to leave the hospital. And I knew that I couldn't get back into my body. But I couldn't get back in because they removed me from my house and I couldn't get any of my stones. They wouldn't let me have my stones. They wouldn't let me have any of the things that I need to help me ground. And one of the things they said was that you can have almond butter instead, because apparently peanut butter could potentially be eaten by somebody, not me, and somebody might be allergic, and that could leave them open to a lawsuit, whatever. They wouldn't let me have peanut butter, but they did offer me almond butter as a substitute. If they knew anything about vibrational frequencies, they would know that maybe nutritionally, almond butter and peanut butter could substitute for one another. They're very similar, but energetically, they couldn't be further apart, because you're looking for different qualities if you're treating the energy body as a priority. Peanut butter grows underground. One of the reasons animals and like indigenous people know, have an instinct as to what medicinal plants, what substances can be used to treat, can be used to as medicine. It's because of the way it looks, because of how it grows. There's just an inherent understanding of the natural world. Almonds grow in trees, so it's airborne. So I can't use an almond. An almond is going to carry the energy of the air because that's where it grows. It's not going to be able to help me anchor. I would need something like a root vegetable, potatoes, beets, or carrots would work. But certain things, it's also, basically, I just needed peanut butter. It's going to help, it's going to assist me a lot easier to have something like a potato or something that carries the energy of underneath the ground to bring me back to earth. Has to be something very grounding. And there's going to be a point where energy medicine is absolutely the wave of the future. As soon as we start to prioritize our 10 strands at minimally 10 strands of energetic DNA as compared to 2 physical. I'm not trying to diminish the physical body, but that's where things get condensed. there's going to come an incredible overhaul of the healthcare system, not only because of med beds, which already exist, and supposedly there's a huge wave of them that's already made, and they're not delivered yet. I'm really hoping, I'm praying that that's going to be in 2021. I'm not entirely sure, but I know that it's going to be after the solar flash. The solar flash has to come first because that's going to wipe out all the rest of the corruption, and it's going to imprint an enormous wave of incoming light frequencies, light codes, new knowledge. Light equals data. So as soon as our minds are open, we're going to be able, our telepathy is going to come back online. We're going to be able to transmit huge quantities of data and linear learning. The conventional school system, it's going to totally change the educational system. Everything is going to be individuated, and all you have to do, if your mind is completely open and all of the energy is running properly, all you have to do is ask a question. You've got something very similar to, it's like the internet, but it's in your head. We're still going to have technology. Yes, we're going to have the internet for a while, but there's going to come a point in the future where we're just not going to need the same kind. This is going to seem very labor intensive. Anyway, our bodies are going to begin to regenerate automatically. It's very important at this time that you drink a lot of water, particularly keep your body alkaline. When you pee, your energetic signature, everything about you, goes into the water system. There's a system by which information is received and distributed, and everything is going to talk to everything else as soon as we get the added density out of the way. So I didn't talk very much about the changes to the financial institution. I think I'm going to do that next time. It's gotten very dark. I may do that tomorrow. All right. The holographic med beds, when they come in, we're going to be able to regrow organs. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. All right. I know this was very disjointed. If you have a way of anybody who has the ability to make a donation, I would really appreciate that, because money is extremely low for those of us. Many of us in the high grid have been totally unplugged, or are now totally unplugged from the third dimensional financial model, and money has not been getting to us the way it was supposed to. So we're extremely short on money. At least I am here. So I would like it if you could make a donation. I would greatly appreciate it. If anybody wants to book a session, I'm available. I can do up to 2 a week. All right. I love you. I will talk to you later. Bye.